Uncover the sinister secrets of Little Nightmares 3, spine-chilling thrills await you. Sarah's heart raced like a speeding train as she navigated the empty, echoing hallways of Maplewood General. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets that made her skin crawl. It was just another night shift for the weary nurse, but tonight felt different. The darkness seemed thicker, alive, closing in on her as she pushed through the weight of fatigue. She could hear the distant laughter of families echoing in her mind, a cruel reminder of what she was striving for as a single mother. But the laughter transformed into something twisted and cold, clawing at her sanity. One of her co-workers had mentioned it, the disappearances, hospital employees vanishing during late shifts, swallowed whole by the night. Sarah dismissed it, but the warning gnawed at her, a creeping unease that something dreadfully wrong was lurking just out of sight. Night after night, she faced the unending cycle of her responsibilities, even as the pressures threatened to swallow her whole. Could those rumors have any truth? The night grew darker, and the shadows lengthened. Back home, her son Ben's innocent laughter contrasted sharply with the events of her night. It was so bright, almost too bright, but then he showed her his drawings. Colorful at first, they soon twisted into disturbing depictions of their jolly neighbor, Mr. Connors. A smile that made her skin prickle, the shadows creeping in behind him. Endless strange figures in the background, menacing and haunting. Each drawing felt like a warning she couldn't decipher, until it was too late. "Mom, look!" Ben exclaimed, his finger tracing the figure in the latest sketch. It was Mr. Connors, but now he was draped in darkness. "Why does he look like that?" The fear in his voice sent chills down Sarah's spine, as if a cold hand had clutched her heart. She brushed it off, told Ben it was just his imagination, just a silly phase. Yet, a part of her hesitated, caught in the grip of rising horror as the seeds of doubt took hold. As she lay awake later, every creak of the house felt amplified, the shadows outside her window appeared alive, swelling with menace. In her restless mind, the pieces began to shatter, memories of chilling folklore bubbling to the surface, the tales of neighborhood children who had vanished, never to return. What had she done to ignore the signs? Ignored her son's warning? Visions of her own vulnerability haunted her. When she'd sought help from the community, they laughed. Who would suspect Mr. Connors? The perfect neighbor. All she could do was hold on tightly to her fear. Then one night, reality shattered. Panic seized her when she noticed Ben was nowhere to be found. Rushing through the dimly lit streets of Maplewood, terror enveloped her heart. Frantic whispers filled her ears, shadows twisted deeper, gouging at her sanity. "Ben!" She screamed into the dark, but just silence answered back. The chill of dread wrapped around her throat, choking her breath. What if the whispers were true? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In her frantic search, Sarah stumbled across an unsettling truth about Mr. Connors' tales of his darker side entwined with the ghost stories of their town. Ties that stretched back decades, tapping into a twisted web woven with trust and silence. Her breaths quickened, and dread seeped into every pore. Could the man who smiled so widely be the monster hiding in plain sight? Just as the walls closed in, a familiar figure appeared out of the abyss, pushing Sarah to the edge of terror. A shadow stepped from the dark, the visage long familiar but nightmarish in its context, grinning menacingly. It was Ben's drawing come to life, and the terrifying realization twisted her stomach into knots. She faltered, gripped by the chilling notion that the true nightmare was not just about finding her son, it was about uncovering a malevolence that could tear apart everything she held dear. Who can she truly trust when the enemy is hidden in plain sight? Sarah stumbled back, her breath hitching as she took in the grotesque shape standing before her. The ink-black shadow of her son's drawing loomed large, eyes glowing like dying embers, a twisted smile stretching across its flickering face. It wasn't Ben, but something dark and insatiable, a thing birthed from fear and despair. The pulse in her ears drummed a frantic rhythm, the echo of her own heartbeat matching the oppressive silence around her. "Ben," she cried, her voice raw, desperate. She pushed through the instinct to flee, each fiber of her being urging her to run, but she couldn't abandon the sliver of hope that clung to her like the last light of day. "Where's my son?" The shadow wavered, barely holding its form. It pointed into the depths of the night, a movement so slow, it made the world around them feel suspended in darkness. The silence pierced through her, and she felt as if the very air pressed down on her chest. With a shaking hand, Sarah took a tentative step toward the direction it indicated. As she did, her mind raced through all the terrible possibilities that could be lurking out there, the horror that she might never see Ben again. The thought was suffocating. The streetlights buzzed eerily, casting yellow pools of light that fought valiantly against the shadows. She strained her eyes, searching for any sign of her son. Every whisper of wind cut through the night, carrying hints of laughter that made her stomach twist in knots, twisting the simple joy of motherhood into something grotesque. "Ben! Please!" She called out again, her voice breaking under the pressure of mounting fear. As she ventured further, she felt the cold brush of a phantom breeze sweep past her. A shiver shot down her spine. Was it just the wind, or was it something else? The night seemed alive, a predator waiting to pounce. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it. The door to Mr. Connor's house was ajar, a thin sliver of darkness beckoning. Her heart dropped. The rumors clung to her like blood on her hands. Mr. Connors was not just a neighbor. He was the face of death tucked quietly behind that friendly facade. The chilling knowledge stabbed at her insides, but a louder voice urged her forward. "I have to know," she whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. She pushed the door open, the creaking hinges echoing in the stillness like a ghostly wail. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling silence, but shadows flitted across the walls, darting just out of reach. Clenching her fists, Sarah moved deeper, gripped by an almost primal fear. The living room stood eerily cluttered with memorabilia, trophies resting under layers of dust. It was a museum of normalcy quaking under the weight of dread. Images of family vacations, barbecues, and laughter lined the walls, charming moments trapped in time, oblivious to the horror lurking beneath. "Ben?" she called, her voice wavering. The shadows shifted, gathering in the corners, morphing into shapes that bore down on her, suffocating the light. The laughter returned, tainted, filled with anguish. It spiraled into a cacophony of voices, a chorus of the vanished, filling her with dread. Before she could form another word, a small figure materialized ahead, a childlike silhouette standing in the hallway, shrouded in darkness. Her heart leaped. "Ben!" But as she rushed forward, the figure dissolved into the gloom, laughter echoing her son's voice, warped and sorrowful, receding with each step. The shadows swelled, and fear tightened around her throat. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from behind, the door slamming shut on its own. She whirled around, panic crashing through her. Laughter morphed into cries, as if the very walls absorbed every scream of despair. "Is he here?" Sarah gasped, eyes wide with horror. Her next breath caught something cold and clammy seemed to slither across her ankle. She stumbled back, realizing something was coming after her. The realization hit her like a knife to the gut. There was no escaping the nightmare. The darkness was alive, and it wanted her. As shadows danced in the corner of her eyes, Sarah turned to flee, but the house felt alive, walls closing in, trapping her deeper in this waking nightmare. Where was Ben? What price was she willing to pay to uncover the truth? The shadow lunged. And what about the sacrifices she would need to make to save her son? The darkness seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, a living entity eager to swallow her whole. Sarah's pulse quickened, pounding in her ears louder than any scream. Instinct kicked in, forcing her legs into motion as she darted down the dimly lit hallway, the cold fingers of the gloom curling around her like tendrils of smoke. Behind her, something moved, a scrape on the wood floor that tore through the air like nails on a chalkboard. Heart racing, she glanced back just in time to catch a glimpse of the swirling shadow forming a grotesque face made of despair. It wanted her. No, it wanted Ben, and she was just in its way. "Leave me alone," she shouted, the words echoed back, morphing into taunts that reverberated off the walls. The house itself seemed to be mocking her, a sinister laughter bubbling from the depths of those silent rooms. Sarah's breath came in shallow gasps as she pushed through the front door and out into the night. The air outside was icy, stealing the warmth from her skin. She stumbled onto the cracked pavement, looking left and right for any hint of Ben. The dark sky loomed heavy, and the streetlights flickered ominously, bathing the world in sickly yellow light. "Ben!" she cried again, voice laced with desperation. The darkness around her felt thick, suffocating, as if the night was actively trying to drown her. She closed her eyes, blocking out the panic for a heartbeat, focusing on the memories of her son, the smell of his hair after a bath, the warmth of his hugs. A sharp gasp pulled her back to reality. A figure appeared across the street, small and frail but instantly recognizable. It was Ben. Relief and terror intermingled in her gut, sending her into a sprint towards him, but just as fast, the figure slipped behind a tree, disappearing like smoke. "Ben!" she shouted, fear clawing at her throat. The laughter surged again, a cacophony of joy twisted into something unrecognizable. She looked around, the shadows lengthening, claws reaching for her, dragging at her ankles as if the ground itself wanted to pull her down. "No! I won't let you take him!" she screamed defiantly, her voice breaking. But the darkness just laughed louder, a discordant chorus echoing in her ears. Sarah ran toward the tree, heart hammering wildly against her ribs. But just as she reached the spot where Ben had stood, she came face to face with Mr. Connors. The neighbor she had once exchanged pleasantries with stood there, a twisted grin carving lines across his face. His eyes glimmered with a cold hunger that sent chills down her spine. "Looking for something, dear?" he asked, voice silky yet dripping with malice. "Where's my son?" she cried, fear radiating from her like waves. Mr. Connors simply pointed deeper into the woods, where the shadows danced with an insidious life of their own. "He's waiting for you, Sarah. All good children calm their mothers. Are you willing to find him?" Sarah's heart sank. A choice loomed before her. To follow this man into the darkness or turn back, risking the shadows reclaiming her son. But what if this was the only way to save him? "No," she whispered, though her instincts screamed otherwise. "Ah, but Sarah," he continued, stepping closer, "every choice has its price." What was that price? Would it cost her everything? Standing frozen in both fear and resolve, she sensed the darkness swirling around her, closing in. Then she heard it, a faint, muffled cry. "Ben?" The pleading echoed through the trees. "Go on, Sarah," Mr. Connors urged with chilling charm. "It's time to make a sacrifice." As his voice trailed off, shadows swarmed around her, pressing against her, pinning her to the spot. She would have to confront the darkness, she had no other choice. "Will you pay the price to save your son?" The question hung, heavy like a weight about to break her. What lay ahead in the depths of the shadows? And would she finally discover the truth, or would the darkness consume her too? The night seemed to hold its breath as Sarah's mind raced. The shadows danced closer, whispering secrets of despair, clawing at her sanity. She looked into Mr. Connors' eyes, searching for a hint of humanity, but all she saw was a predatory hunger, a feast waiting to be savored. "Stop playing games," she shouted, her voice shaking but defiant. The muffled cries of her son echoed in her ears, pulling her toward the depths of the woods. Each cry twisted her heart, urging her to move forward despite the insistent pull of fear. Mr. Connors chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that sent shivers down her spine. Games? Oh, dear Sarah, this is no game. This is the reality you face. To save one life, another must be offered. What did he mean? Sarah felt her stomach twist. The faint cries transformed into guttural sounds that split the silence of the night. It was the kind of noise that cut through to her very bones, a chilling reminder of what hung in the balance. The darkness shifted around her, alive, pulsating. She felt it scratch against her skin, begging her to surrender. For a moment, she felt frozen, a mass of indecision. But the cries continued, echoing in her heart, pushing her into action. Ben! She yelled, terror edging her voice. This was not just about following Mr. Connors. She had to embrace the darkness to save her son. Sarah stepped forward, ignoring the way the shadows clawed at her ankles, pulling her down. With every step towards the woods, her pulse quickened, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could hear her son's voice clearer now. Mommy! The sound was like a lifeline, dragging her further into the abyss. Go ahead, Mr. Connors said, a sickening smile widening across his face. Into the woods where every branch whispers their secrets. Where the darkness craves your desperation. Will you become one with it? Ignoring him, she plunged into the thicket, branches whipping at her face and snagging at her clothes. The air grew heavier, thick with dread as the cries transformed into a chorus of wails, growing closer, more insistent. Each sound twisted her insides, almost pleading for salvation. Ben! She cried out again, her voice cracked as panic bubbled inside her. The shadows thickened, swirling with a life of their own. Their chilling embrace felt torturous, a dark mist wrapping around her like serpents. She stumbled, heart pounding against her ribcage, and caught herself against a tree. Mom! The voice was so close now. Fear and determination pumped life back into her legs. She pushed deeper into the woods, branches tearing at her skin. Suddenly, she saw him, a small figure ahead, illuminated by a flickering light far off in the distance. It was Ben. Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. The light dimmed, flickering like a dying candle. No! She breathed, scrambling forward, desperate to close the distance. But as she ran, the shadows clawed more fiercely, whispering her deepest fears. Images of what could happen to her son swirled around her. A world without Ben, a monolithic darkness swam in her mind, promising pain and loss. Sarah pushed her worries aside and ran faster, the light flickering like hope, teasing her, and she will not let it dim completely. Yet, the cries morphed, turning into something sinister, mocking, chanting words she couldn't understand. And then, she felt it, a pull on her heart, like a chain clamped down, binding her to the very shadows that hunted her. Sarah, Mr. Connors' voice echoed in her head, what will you sacrifice? I will sacrifice nothing. She shouted defiantly into the night. But the darkness laughed, and the last flicker of light disappeared, plunging her into an abyss where the cries turned to silence. And then, she felt cold breath against her neck as she turned. What waited behind her in the silence? Could she truly face the cost of her choices? The shadows thickened, and with it, the looming threat grew, ready to ensnare her. Sarah's scream echoed in the stillness, an involuntary sound of pure terror. She spun around, heart hammering. The air was thick, closing in, waiting. The gentle rustle of branches turned into hungry whispers. What do you want? She cried, voice trembling. The darkness twisted, shadows writhed and shifted, almost forming shapes just beyond her perception. She couldn't see, but she felt them, countless eyes watching, evaluating her, waiting for her next move. Mom! Ben's voice pleaded again, this time accompanied by the desperate sound of struggling. It pierced through the blackness, fueling her drive, igniting her heart with fear. "Ben! Where are you?" She pushed through the thorny branches, her limbs aching. Each step felt like wading through a thick, damp fog. The screams of the past haunted her, twisted faces flashing in her mind, taunting her. "Face it, Sarah." Mr. Connor's voice came now as a mere whisper, serpentine, curling around her sanity. "This is not a rescue, it's a reckoning. All debts come due." She stumbled, heart racing as urgency clawed at her, each pulse drumming reminders of time slipping away. Would she truly sacrifice anything to save her son? "No!" she screamed, fury overriding her fear. "I will not play your sick game." The shadows recoiled at her outburst, hesitating for a split second. It was the briefest glimmer of hope, but it vanished as the ground beneath her seemed to shift, urging her to kneel, to yield. The wailing intensified, a cacophony of lost souls reverberating through the trees. Every note felt like a knife scraping against her bones. It fueled the darkness, swelling with anticipation like a monster about to feast. Without thinking, Sarah charged ahead, branches ripping at her skin, the cold bite of night fighting against her resolve. She felt the pull of the darkness, like a cold hand gripping her ankle, dragging her back. But she couldn't stop now. She would not. Mom. Ben. She could almost see him, his tiny form like a beacon of light, a flickering promise buried amidst the gloom. She reached into the void, desperate to bridge the gap. "I'm coming!" she cried, ripping through the last barrier of branches. And then silence. A chilling, deafening silence. The cries faded, leaving only the echo of her own breath behind. The flickering light vanished before her eyes, swallowed by the abyss. Panic bubbled anew, unrelenting. "Ben!" she screamed, voice splintered with dread. "I am the shadows," a voice dripped like venom, cold and smooth, wrapping around her. Sarah turned, eyes wide. The echoes brought forth a figure, rising like a nightmare coalescing into form. Mr. Connors appeared, standing among the trees, each shadow stretching towards him like a worshipper to their god. "You thought yourself brave, didn't you?" His sinister grin widened with satisfaction. "Play your hand if you dare." Terror clawed at her throat. She was cornered in a game she never wished to play. Images of her son danced crazily in her mind, his laughter, his innocent smile, the way his small hand fit perfectly in hers. "Ben! Where are you?" This time, her voice trembled, defiance replaced with desperation. And then she saw it, a flash of light beyond Connors, cutting through the darkness. It flickered not just with hope but with a fierce determination. Was it possible? Could she break this stranglehold? The shadows shifted ominously, and a creeping dread prickled her skin. "You must choose, Sarah. Choose wisely." She felt the weight of the night pressing down. The cold breath at her neck returned, igniting the primal urge to flee or fight. And in the stillness, as Connors watched with eager anticipation, a chilling realization struck her: every hero's journey leads to a sacrifice. What if the cost wasn't simply her own life? Would she be willing to make that choice? As the breath of darkness wrapped around her, an unexpected rustle came from behind. What or who was lurking in the fog? The woods whispered secrets of the past, and it was time to confront them. But would she like what she uncovered? Chilling air gripped Sarah as the rustle echoed again, this time louder, filled with an unnatural intent. She turned slowly, her heart pounding like a beating drum in a silent parade. Shadows danced around her, flickering and retreating, as if teasing her sense of security, whispering taunts that chilled her blood. "Ben?" she called again, a mere tremor fighting its way through her voice. The thrill of hope she had clung to now felt like a fragile thread unraveling fast, its end lost in darkness. Something stirred, a presence at the edge of her vision, glinting faintly. Sarah's breath hitched. Was it Ben? Could he be trapped in that darkness too? "Stay back," she warned, though her voice quaked. She took a cautious step forward, limbs shaking with each movement. Just as she raised her hands to shield herself, a figure emerged, cloaked in shadows but unmistakably small. It was a child, a girl, no older than 7, with wide, sorrowful eyes that glimmered with something unnameable. "Help me," the girl pleaded softly, her voice like ice carving through Sarah. "Where's Ben?" Sarah demanded, knowing fully that the darkness lied and twisted truths into nightmares. The girl's eyes flickered to the path behind her, fear momentarily eclipsing the sorrow. He is the girl hesitated, and in that pause, a darkness deeper than the night whispered urgently, brushing against Sarah's ears. "He's gone." "No. He's here. I can feel him." Desperation clawed at her insides, tearing her resolve. She felt her precarious grip on hope shattering again as the shadows edged closer, swirling around the child. "Mom!" The call, faint yet familiar, cut through Sarah's heart. It drew her attention away from the girl, slicing the moment in two. "Ben!" Sarah spun, adrenaline igniting her senses. The child was gone, swallowed by the shadows as a new dread settled. Sarah Connor's voice echoed, mocking and low. "Every step you take in this fog brings you closer to the truth. The truth you don't want to see. Leave us alone." She yelled, fury igniting the last embers of her strength. "This is all wrong. You can't take him." The shadows rippled in what felt like amusement, sensing her fear. "Then face your past. Only then will you find what you have come for." And suddenly, the trees shifted, parting as if caught in a sudden internal quarrel, revealing a path lined with remnants of memories long buried. Faded photographs fluttered in the breeze, capturing moments of joy turned agonizing. She couldn't let them ensnare her. With trembling hands, she brushed aside a brittle page, revealing a familiar picture: Ben's first day of school. His smile shone bright, yet now, it seemed tainted, tracing back to the dark corners of a mind she wished to forget. "Mom!" The voice, closer now, was frantic, full of fear. Each heartbeat pulsed through her, clanging with urgency. She dropped the photo and plunged into the growing light, her heart thundering in her chest as each step echoed in the dark. "What was in there, Sarah? What have you hidden?" Connor's taunting words curled around her, and she dove deeper into the memories, desperate to drown them out. The light flickered ahead, promising an exit or a trap. "Ben!" She cried out, knowing she was close, but were the memories worth the risk? As the darkness closed in, watching and waiting, she found herself at a crossroads, to turn back to the shadows, or push forward through the light that may lead her to her son. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her, shaking with anticipation. Whispered secrets erupted within the shadows, urging her to choose. What lies awaited her in the heart of her own past? Sarah's breath hitched as she crossed into the light, a blinding glow that washed over her like icy water. The warmth felt foreign yet inviting. She hesitated. The shadows behind her loomed, twisting and writhing like serpents ready to ensnare her if she dared to look back. "Ben!" She shouted again, her voice stronger this time, fueled by a desperate need to find him. The light shifted, warping into translucent images that danced within its embrace. Faces and figures of her past sprang forth, flickering in and out of existence. Each moment she recognized threatened to swallow her whole. A birthday party, laughter echoing, a picnic in the park, all tainted by an unseen veil of dread. Another voice broke through the haze, slightly familiar yet eerily out of sync. "Mom, help! It was Ben. Where are you?" Panic clawed at her throat. Shadows skated at the edges of the light, eager to grasp her weakness. They whispered accusations she couldn't comprehend, their murmurings shaping her doubts into monsters. "Face the truth," they hissed, pulling her deeper into the memories. "Face what you've done." A picture formed in the air, vibrant colors fading to gray. It showed Ben, a child with innocent eyes, standing before a cracked mirror. "You didn't protect me," he said, his voice cracking, morphing into a confrontation Sarah dreaded. "You let me fall." "No." Her heart raced, panic consuming her. I tried to keep you safe." But the scene changed again, morphing. Another memory surfaced, the night of the accident. Shadows enveloped her, painting the surroundings in murky hues. She remembered the screeching tires, the sickening thud that had shattered her world. In that moment, the guilt she had buried rushed back in a tidal wave. The blame echoed in her ears, relentless and punishing. The ground shuddered beneath her feet. Was it anger? Regret? Or something more sinister pressing against her? She willed herself to focus. Ben. Then came the chilling silence, a silence that wrapped around her like a shroud. The light dimmed, the photographs swirling into nothingness as shadows danced closer, smothering her in their cold embrace. "You must remember, Sarah." Only then can you. The voice dissected her thoughts, nail on chalkboard, grating, filled with sinister glee. With a scream erupting from her throat, Sarah stumbled back, feeling the shadows inching closer, their whispers clawing at her sanity. "No, I want to let you. I can't stay here." She pushed against the darkness, a growing resolve igniting her spirit. If Ben was lost in this nightmare, she had to confront her past. But how? "Find me," the whisper thread through her mind, ethereal yet pleading. In the fog the words pierced through the cacophony, resonating deep within her heart. "Stay strong, Ben. I'm coming." She took a deep breath, her body shaking but moving forward, step by step, clenching her fists as the shadows flickered and snarled around her. What hidden truths waited to unravel as she ventured deeper into the past? Onward she pressed, searching for the fog that held the key to her son's safety, determined to face whatever horrors awaited her. The fog swallowed her in a thick embrace, wrapping around her like a suffocating blanket. It smelled damp, like decay, and it pressed against her skin, leaving her cold and unsettled. "Ben, where are you?" she whispered, fear lacing her words. Her heart pounded loudly in the silence, a frantic drumbeat that resonated in her ears. She felt completely alone amidst the swirling gray, every step echoing eerily in the still air. Instinct drove her deeper, past shadows that curled and slithered just out of sight. The faint echo of her son's voice lingered, but with each second, it grew fainter, slipping through her fingers like sand. The fog parted just enough for fleeting glimpses of twisted shapes in the distance, hulking forms that watched her with unblinking eyes. "Mom, please!" A cry sliced through the quiet, shattering the thick atmosphere. It was closer now, filled with an urgency that sent shivers racing down her spine. She pressed forward, dread threading through her veins like ice. Then suddenly, the insistent whispers returned, louder and more accusing. "You left him." They hissed like serpents. "You killed him the moment you turned away." Sarah gasped, swallowing hard against the rising bile of guilt. She could see visions materializing in the fog. They were memories, some old, some recent, filling her mind with horrors she had never wanted to confront. She stepped into a clearing. In the center lay a faded swing set, familiar and haunting. Her breath caught. It was the same one from the park where Ben used to play. But this was different. The swings creaked slowly, moving as if pushed by a phantom hand, rusted chains clinking softly. She reached out to touch it, but the instant her fingers brushed the metal, a piercing scream erupted from the mist. "Mom!" The shout was wrapped in agony. Panic rose in Sarah's throat, suffocating her. "Help me! Ben!" She spun around, searching the fog, desperate to find him. The swing swung violently now, shadows chasing each other on the ground below. Figures rose within the swirling haze, faces contorted with grief, faceless but all too familiar. They reached for her, hands that seemed to claw at the very air surrounding her. "Face the truth!" they cried, their voices layered, booming like thunder in her skull. Each accusation cut deeper than the last, raw and unrelenting. You have to own your mistakes. Only then will he be free. Shut up. Sarah screamed, clenching her fists, squeezing her eyes shut. I didn't mean to. A heart-wrenching sob escaped her lips. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to drown out the relentless chorus of judgment. But it was all too powerful. The chaos intensified, shadows blending together until they floated like dark clouds around her. She fought against it, dragging in deep breaths, trying to anchor herself amidst the turmoil. Then, a flicker caught her eye, something breaking through the fog. A soft golden light blinked in the distance, a beacon of hope, glowing brighter as she stumbled toward it. Ben! She shouted wildly, hope lacing her voice. The light danced playfully, urging her ever closer. I'm coming. As she neared, exhilaration coursed through her. What lay in that light? Freedom? Answers? Or more horrors waiting just beyond? Find me, the whisper echoed once again, more desperate this time, fading with every step she took, merging with the shadows. With her heart hammering and adrenaline spiking, she plunged forward, but the light flickered one moment bright, the next dim, as if testing her resolve. What nightmare stretched ahead? She had to know. She had to find him. In that solemn moment, a chilling realization washed over her, the fog housed secrets she may not be ready to learn. But with Ben's safety hanging in the balance, could she turn back? Suddenly, the shadows lunged at her, threatening to clutch her in their icy grip. The race against time threatened to consume her once and for all. What awaited her in the heart of the light? Would it free her or drag her deeper into the abyss? The golden light pulsed in front of her, drawing her in like a moth to a flame, even as the shadows threatened to swallow her whole. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, a metronome of panic as she reached the edge of the clearing. The whispers faded momentarily, replaced by a thick silence, almost a lull before the storm. She hesitated, anxiety knotting her stomach. What if this light was just another trap? A cruel trick played by the fog? But the cry of her son pierced through her thoughts once more. Mom! Help me! Sarah surged ahead, her feet pounding against the ground, anticipation building. The golden light flickered again, then danced away. She gasped, feeling the weight of desperation creeping back in. Don't leave me, she pleaded, the words tumbling from her lips like broken glass. Suddenly, a surge of cold air pushed against her, wrapping around her throat like a vice. The shadows swirled closer, their shapes more defined, glinting with an unsettling hunger. Out of the murk stepped a figure shrouded in darkness yet undeniably familiar. It was the silhouette of a child, with the same small stature as Ben. Ben? She called, voice trembling. But when the figure turned, it wore a mask of horror, its face obscured by strands of tangled hair. The eyes, wide and unblinking, were not those she loved. The creature opened its mouth, but all that escaped was a low, guttural growl that vibrated in the air. Sarah stumbled back, her heart racing, and the fog grew thicker, closing in like a predator savoring the hunt. Mom, I was waiting, the voice echoed, but it twisted, distorting into mockery. You didn't come. You left me. Stop. She shouted, falling to her knees, hands clawing against the cold ground. I didn't mean to. I thought I could come back. The figure stepped closer, shadows dancing around it, revealing fleeting glimpses of faces intertwined in sorrow, a parade of guilt-stricken souls, each one stretching out their arms toward her. You have to face what you abandoned. They wailed in unison, their voices rising, crashing down on her like waves. No! She screamed, pressing her palms into her temples. I can't do this. The weight of their accusations tugged at her heart, and a memory flickered. Ben's laughter, the warmth of his hand in hers, the park bustling with light and life. But it was gone, replaced by the terrible specters of her failures. The fog curled tighter, spinning around her until she could hardly breathe. The golden light pulsed again, a tantalizing beacon, fighting against the growing darkness that threatened to consume her completely. "Mom," another voice echoed faintly, a sound she recognized. It was real Ben's voice, seeping through the chaos. "Stay with me," Sarah cried, bolting back toward the light, plunging into it with everything she had. The warmth enveloped her, flooding her senses, drowning out the cold dread. But as she emerged on the other side, she found not safety, but a disorienting void. She stood in an endless expanse, a shattered landscape where echoes of laughter morphed into cries of despair. Shadows loomed all around her. "Where am I?" Panic clawed at her throat as she searched wildly. But the shadows simply danced, their implications circling her with malevolence. Was she still in the fog? Or had she stepped into something worse? "Mom!" It was him again, but the urgency now felt different, a haunting echo reverberating through the darkness. With newfound resolve, she pushed deeper into the unknown, guided by the only sound that mattered. "Ben, I'm coming." But as she moved, a sudden chill swept over her, and the shadows thickened, whispering darker truths. What had she truly awakened? And what price would she pay for the chance to claim him back? As Sarah plowed through the oppressive void, every ounce of dread coiled around her like a snake. The shadows murmured secrets, dark insinuations clawing at her sanity. "You can't escape," they hissed, "face what you've done." She wasn't just fighting for her son, she was battling her own demons, the guilt manifesting as swirling specters in the bleakness around her. "Ben!" she called out, desperation splintering her voice. The emptiness stretched around her, but that sound, her son's name, caused a flicker in the darkness. If only she could push through the suffocating guilt and fear, find that flickering hope lit by her love. Finally, the darkness parted just enough for her to glimpse a small figure kneeling against the ground. Her heart leaped at the sight, her instinct screaming it was him. "Ben!" She rushed forward, but the shadows snarled, grasping at her with icy fingers. The further she got, the more they surged toward her. Yet, she couldn't stop now. Not after coming so far. As she approached, the figure turned, and her breath caught in her throat. Ben looked up, his innocent face was streaked with dark shadows, tears pooling in his fearful eyes. "Mom, please." His voice trembled, the sound bouncing off the walls of despair around them. "Ben!" she cried, reaching out, but he was trapped, entangled in the web of darkness suffocating them both. "I'm here. I'll save you. I promise." But the shadows tightened their grip, dragging her back. With a scream, she lunged toward him, focusing all of her energy on the light within her heart, the love she felt for her son. "Let him go." The words burst forth from her, raw and fierce. The shadows recoiled, their form rippling as if in response to her will. "I'll face my past. I'll embrace the truth." With each declaration, the darkness pulsed like a heart, contracting around her, but she refused to relent. "Don't give in, Sarah." A voice echoed, powerful yet familiar. It was her own, a spark of strength igniting the fading embers of her resolve. "You want him back? Then fight." Driven by that rallying cry, she barreled forward once more, prying against the cold grip of despair, barriers trying to suffocate her. "Ben! I'm not leaving you again." She tugged and pried until, with a wrenching pulse, she felt something snap. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in protest, as light erupted like the dawn chasing away the night. With a frail hand, she grasped Ben's, pulling him close. Their fingers intertwined like roots seeking sunlight. In that moment, she was no longer just Sarah, she was a mother. Every wound, fear, and regret melted away in the blaze of her love as she pulled him into the bright warmth that pushed back the gloom. "Mom!" Ben cried, pure joy mingling with disbelief. His face was clouded with uncertainty initially, but as the golden light enveloped them both, his trust in her flooded back. "I'm here. You're safe now," she declared, encasing him in a protective embrace. And as the darkness shuddered and writhed around them, the whispers receded into silence. They stood illuminated, united against the shadows that had promised to break them both. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled with resignation as the darkness collapsed, the shadows lost and powerless. Something shifted, and it echoed like the funeral of darkness, suffocated by the very love that had birthed them. "What now?" Ben finally managed to ask, hesitation still in his eyes. "We move forward," Sarah replied, kneeling in front of him, heart racing but grounded in newfound hope. "We face the daylight together." "Together." He nodded, an innocence returning to him that warmed her heart. As they walked hand in hand, the sun broke through, radiating warmth and conquering the last remnants of night. The looming fears melted into the background, replaced by vivid colors. Maplewood shone brighter now, a sanctuary rather than a prison. Sarah squeezed Ben's hand tighter, knowing the path ahead wouldn't always be clear. But holding her son close, she had reclaimed her power. The past would whisper through the shadows, but together they would forge ahead, unearthing laughter anew and weaving a future fueled by hope. They would face the dawn, leaving behind the nightmare, finally free to build their lives anew. Now that Sarah and Ben are on their path of healing, don't forget to take a moment for yourself. If you love this story, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that will catch your heart. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, helping other fierce souls find their way here too. And you must flood the comments section with your reactions. I want to hear your theories about their journey and the truths they faced. Remember, share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions.